Hi. Nowadays, many organizations are conducting employee engagement surveys. In earlier years, they were called as employee satisfaction surveys, employee commitment surveys, employee experience surveys, and so many names. Even some of the organizational climate surveys come closer to this. I find from my experience there are three common mistakes that most organizations make in conducting these surveys. The first mistake is in terms of picking up a most popular survey questionnaire and starting with the purpose of benchmarking. Normally, people seem to prefer shorter questionnaires and they look at these questionnaires, administer them, and try to measure engagement. Unfortunately, the purpose of such surveys is only benchmarking and brand building and is not really enhancing the engagement of their employees. So it is important to design surveys that are really meant to understand the reasons for engagement or factors that are causing weak engagement and so on, and solve issues. So the purpose should be to enhance employee engagement rather than, I think, to improve only the brand image by international or local kind of comparisons. This is the first mistake that if you design the questionnaire to really enhance employee engagement with a genuine concern, you would use a participative method of evolving the items of the questionnaire. It always should be based on talking to people, finding out the most talked about reasons, both for positive side, what makes people engaged, and the negative side, and design a questionnaire. So I would strongly recommend to correct the first mistake, to define your purpose very clearly and create a survey which is based on a participative method. It might even involve having different types of questionnaires. You don't have to have the same number of items for all people. It depends upon what your preliminary investigation reveals. The second common mistake that most organizations make is dealing with the data once you collect. Average is normally found out, item-wise average is found out, and most of these surveys I have seen indicate either performance appraisal is the most dissatisfying factor, or incentive system is bad, or one or the other of the things. Unfortunately, life is a lot more complex than reducing all your problems to poor performance management or ensuring better rewards and incentives. I think this is a lot more complex. And even in doing this, organizations look at average scores, find out those items on which the average score is poor, and think that is the problem for the entire employee engagement. This is a wrong way of doing. It is like trying to cross the river by measuring the average depth. I think the averages may vary from department to department, may vary even for the same kind of a department from time to time. So you must remember, it is not the averages that matter. I would normally recommend to deal with this issue. Besides looking at averages and identifying areas where you need to focus, you should look at the individual scores. If you have about 100 individuals responding to your questionnaire, about 20 of them have rated on a 5-point scale, only 2 or 3, or even some of them rated 1. I think it is important to look at these 20 individuals who perceive their engagement or who rated their own engagement as low. So you certainly should focus on those people whose engagement is high, but you don't know, because normally these questionnaires are anonymous, so you would not know who is what. But I think it is important to understand that 20% of your employees are not engaged. Now it is important to find out what is it that is common among these 20% of the people who are less engaged. That will give you a lot of insights. In other words, it is important to look at individual scores, individual total scores, and find out the engagement pattern across the organization, and then try to investigate what is common among those who are highly engaged versus those who are not at all engaged, and so on. So this requires a totally different framework of analysis. Normally, I have recommended to companies whenever you administer an engagement survey and experience survey, ask the individual to keep a copy of the survey with him or her. And at the end of it, when you got the scores, you communicate to people what is the range of scores and what does it mean to be less engaged or more engaged to the individual himself or herself. It is very important in terms of you helping individuals to take ownership of their own engagement. The third mistake most organizations make in employee engagement survey or using the data is to think that there is only one problem or two problems, coming up with universal solutions. So, performance management is bad, performance appraisal is bad, therefore, let us work on it. That does not solve the issue. Or incentives are bad, reward systems are bad, let's work on it. I think these are only small symptoms. I think engagement is a consequence of every individual of a complex set of factors. While it is important certainly to look at appraisal if that is what is low, or incentive system that is what is low, the way you look at should be to look at to have to form a task force and to further investigate. Always employee engagement surveys are symptoms, indicate symptoms of an issue, and the issue has to be investigated by having task forces, groups of people, or taking back the data to people and getting groups to discuss about it, debate about it, and come up with solutions. I think the solutions cannot be found only by the HR department or the top management. They can only initiate action in terms of further investigating the issue and coming up with solutions. As I mentioned somewhere else, in one of the banks, they discovered that employee satisfaction was low because of a transfer policy. And in that bank, the transfer policy was against posting bank employees to their home states. So, as a result, they felt that the transfer policy has to be tweaked, and they tweaked and encouraged people now to be posted to home states. A year later, when they conducted a resurvey, they discovered the employee satisfaction to be even lower than before, and the reason was the new transfer policy which they have come up with. So, friends, problems cannot be solved with simple solutions by looking at survey data. Survey data only are symptoms. They point out where the temperature is. You need to investigate the actual disease, and for that you need a lot of sensitive people and constant dialogue with people and so on. And I must tell you at the end that organizations are like flowing rivers. There are factors in the chemistry is all the time changing. If you conduct a survey and think you have done a marvelous job at that point of time, there is no guarantee things will remain all the time the same. So, keeping a watch on employee experience or engagement is the job certainly of the HR department, and for that they should be using and be constantly in touch with people, sensing the pulse of the organization. And these surveys are certainly helpful. You should conduct these surveys. They can be shorter, but they should be well designed and conducted appropriately so that you can get the best out of it. Just imagine that as a result of your survey, out of 100 people, 10% are more engaged because the solution you found helped them to feel more satisfied. Even if I think each one of them have given to the organization 10% more than what they were giving, you would have got from these 10% of the people 10% more equivalent to whatever you have invested on the survey, and lot more. Normally, for a wise employee engagement surveyor and a HR person or a OD specialist, the results of such surveys, if it resulted in actual discovery of the problem and solving the problem, the results are enormous and they benefit the organization. They enhance retention, they increase the pride in the organization, and certainly contribute to profits and so on. So, all the best next time when you conduct an employee engagement survey. Make the tool participative, shorter, get people to keep records of them, use variety of analysis of the data, and use it to diagnose the issues and prepare action plans, again using dialogues, meetings, and participative kind of purposes. So, participation enhances engagement. All the best from TVRLS. If you want any further advice, do write to us at www.tvrls.com.